The grand hall of the celestial accord thrummed with a gentle, orchestrated harmony. Beings from 100 species glided across the floor, their forms a tapestry of light, scale, and chitin. The air itself shimmered with translated conversation, a low hum of diplomacy and deceit. At the center of this galaxy-spanning gala, a young woman stood. She was the only daughter of the ruling monarch of the most powerful star empire, a being of such refined grace that light seemed to bend around her in deference. Her gown was like captured nebula, and her eyes held the ancient calm of her lineage. She observed the courtly dance with polite detachment, a silent figure amidst the noise. Across the hall, near a service portal where the acoustics dampened to a murmur, a man stood at attention. He was a member of the human diplomatic corps' security detail, his posture perfect, his gaze constantly moving. His uniform was simple, dark fabric without ornament, a stark contrast to the brilliant silks and crystalline armor around him. He was not there to be seen. He was a fixture, a piece of the architecture meant to ensure the safety of the human ambassador. His eyes scanned the crowd, not with awe, but with a practiced, analytical calm. He noted the subtle shift of a guard's weight, the unusually close proximity of two rival delegates, the minute flicker of a bioscanner. He was utterly focused, and therefore utterly unaware of being the subject of a far more profound scrutiny. The princess had grown weary of the preening of courtiers and the hollow compliments of ambassadors. Her gaze, drifting in quiet rebellion, found the human. She watched him. She saw how he observed not the beauty, but the movement, not the rank, but the potential threat. While a celebrated warrior from the warrior caste of Helios Prime flexed his phosphorescent muscles nearby, the human remained still, a study in contained potential. When a clumsy server stumbled, spilling a flute of luminous wine, the human's hand twitched, not toward a weapon, but as if to catch the falling vessel from 3 meters away. It was a tiny, useless gesture of instinctive helpfulness, immediately suppressed. It was the most genuine thing she had witnessed all evening. Her 3 closest companions, all of similar royal status from allied systems, followed her gaze. One, with skin of opalescent swirls, giggled behind a delicate hand. That creature? The one standing so stiffly by the wall? He looks like a statue carved from shadow. Another, whose form shifted slowly through hues of blue, chimed in. I hear they are a stubborn species. All bone and resolve, no grace. They only recently learned to sail the stars. The princess did not look away from the human. She saw the way he acknowledged a whispered command from his ambassador with the barest nod, how his eyes never stopped their patrol. He was not just guarding. He was seeing. In a court where everyone wore masks, his lack of one was dazzling. She turned to her friends, her voice calm, clear, and absolute. It cut through their gentle laughter. I am going to wed this man. The statement hung in the air, not as a wish, but as a future fact. Her companions fell silent, their amusement replaced by stunned confusion. Before they could form a protest, she was moving, gliding across the floor with a purpose that parted the crowd. The symphony of conversation dipped as all eyes followed the nebula of her gown. She moved past glittering dignitaries, past her own bewildered guards, straight toward the service portal. The human saw her approach. His training activated. High-value asset, moving directly toward his position. Unescorted. No visible threat. Protocol dictated he alert his commander and hold his post. He remained still, but his internal systems were at full alert. She stopped before him, well inside the perimeter his presence established. The scent of something like ozone and starlight reached him. She looked up at him. He looked down at her, his expression neutral, professional. Your Highness, he said, his voice low, this area is not secured. May I escort you back to the main floor? You may not, she said, her voice like chimes. You have a name. It was not a question. He hesitated. Security officer, Your Highness. That is a function. I require the name attached to it. Behind her, the hall was a frozen painting of astonishment. Her father, the monarch, watched from his throne, his expression unreadable. The human ambassador looked momentarily pale. The man understood this was a diplomatic incident in the making. To refuse a direct request from a royal heir was a breach. To comply felt like a personal exposure. Kale, he stated, a single syllable offered like a token. Kale, she repeated, and the name sounded like a fundamental law on her lips. I have observed you. You see the truth of the room. I see potential security concerns, Your Highness. That is one truth. The deeper one is that you are not performing. You are simply being. In this palace of performances, that is a revolutionary act. She took another step closer. I have decided we will be married. For the first time, his professional composure cracked. A flicker of pure, unprocessed shock widened his eyes for a millisecond before discipline slammed down. Your Highness, that is. I am on duty. And such a decision is improbable. Improbable is not impossible. I have spoken. The event is now in motion. She turned, her gown swirling, and looked back at him. You will be summoned. She glided away, leaving him standing at his post, the focus of 1,000 stares. The hum of conversation returned, 10 times more intense, a storm of gossip and political calculation. Kale remained at his post, his face once again a mask of professional detachment, but his mind was reeling. He completed his shift in a haze, aware of the stares, the whispers. His ambassador debriefed him with a mix of anxiety and awe. You did nothing wrong, officer. But the universe just tilted on its axis. The summons came the next day, not to a throne room, but to a private botanical garden under a crystal dome. The princess waited beside a pool of floating, bioluminescent lily. She had foregone her magnificent gown for simpler, yet no less exquisite, robes. You are confused, she stated as he approached, stopping at a respectful distance. Respectfully, Your Highness, yes. I am a soldier. You are a princess. This is not a logical progression. Logic is a tool. It serves purpose. My purpose is not served by a political marriage to a preening prince from a neighboring principality. My empire is strong, but it is stagnant. We have perfected the art of existence, but we have forgotten the thrill of striving. Your people. You strive. You look at a wall, and you immediately think of how to climb it, bypass it, or dismantle it for materials. You are chaos and resolve given form. She gestured to the garden. This is beautiful, is it not? It has been precisely this beautiful for 1,000 years. I find I crave a weed, something that grows where it is not supposed to. Kale considered her words. He saw not a capricious royal, but a being of immense intelligence trapped in a gilded cage. You see an ideal. I am just a man. I follow orders. I protect people. My life is one of service, not of politics. And what greater service could there be than to help steer an empire? She countered, not as a politician, but as a perspective. As a man who sees the stumble before the fall. I do not want you to become one of us. I need you to remain resolutely, stubbornly, you. The days that followed were a whirlwind of quiet meetings. They spoke in gardens, in observatories, in secluded data libraries. He learned of the immense pressure she faced, the intricate, frozen politics of her court. She learned of his life, of Earth's relentless, sometimes clumsy, drive. He spoke of his family, of simple loyalties and clear objectives. She spoke of a universe of obligations where nothing was simple or clear. Opposition was fierce. Her father summoned Kale. The monarch was not angry, but profoundly curious. She has rejected the finest suitors in 5 systems. She claims you possess a quality they lack. Convince me it is not mere rebellion. Kale stood straight. Sire, I cannot convince you of anything. I can only be what I am. I am loyal. I am direct. And I would never seek to diminish your daughter, only to understand the weight she carries. The monarch was silent for a long time. Understanding is a rare currency here, he finally said. We trade in appearances. The court raged. Allies were insulted. Traditionalists were apoplectic. Through it all, the princess was immovable. Her will, once directed, was a force of nature. Kale, for his part, refused to be styled, re-educated, or remade. He attended functions in his formal duty uniform. He answered questions with blunt honesty. His very presence was a disruption. Where courtiers spoke in circles, he spoke in straight lines. It was infuriating, shocking, and for many, secretly refreshing. The wedding was not a grand imperial spectacle. At the princess's insistence, it was a simple ceremony in the same botanical garden, witnessed only by her father, the human ambassador, and her 3 companions. Kale wore his uniform. She wore a plain silver circlet. They exchanged vows not of empire, but of partnership, of perspective, of promising to see the world and each other with clear eyes. Afterward, at the reception they could not avoid, a towering, offended dignitary from a spurned ally approached. "This is a farce," he hissed at Kale. "You bring nothing. No alliances, no resources, no cosmic significance. You are a temporary curiosity." Kale met the being's gaze. He thought of his home, of humanity's stubborn climb from the mud. He thought of the princess's quiet despair in a perfect garden. He said the words that had become his truth. "I bring a new pair of eyes."